The evil dead's on fire. We don't want no deadites. Let the mother effer burn. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler-filled discussion and movie review of Evil Dead Burn, the latest film in the Evil Dead franchise, directed by Sébastien Vanicek. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy the Evil Dead franchise. I hope you're excited to listen to us talk about it. It's one of my favorite franchises in the horror universe, and I have a great, fun guest to talk about it. You've known her, you've seen her before on my channel. What's going on, Triv?
Well, currently my skull is bleeding, and I think I might have a rod through my leg. I also have a contusion, at least one dislocated vertebrae, and multiple other injuries. But you know what? I can still walk.
I mean, okay, that's good. You might want to have a doctor take a look at that, or a Book of the Dead. I mean, sure, okay, good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah. Uh, okay.
And that's just the injuries you can see after watching Evil Dead Burn.
I know, right? Yeah. There's quite a few injuries in this movie. Quite a few bloody times they've had. It is So Evil Dead Burn. Welcome, Triv, as always. Welcome to my horror chaos that is the Evil Dead Burn review. As you know, we on this channel love a good horror film, especially you, Triv. You love all types of horror films, whether it be campy, whether it be serious or violent or gory or not gory and just fun and stupid. But Evil Dead Burn is, of course, the sixth film in this franchise, starting, of course, back in the 1984, was it?
Something
Evil
like
Dead?
that. Well, technically, you had the first three, and then you had the reboot in 2016, I think.
Right, but the original
Um,
one started in 84, and then Evil Dead 2 came out in
yeah,
88 or 86 or something like that. It's a pretty well-known franchise at this point. Of course, it was produced and directed by Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert. It started out as, a decently low-budgeted, really hard to put together horror film, as we've heard on many reviews and many channels like Red Leather Media. And then, of course, Evil Dead 2 came out and became probably one of the great horror films of all time, with its campy nature and comedy. I don't know how you feel about Evil Dead 2, but I'm not as big of a fan of it. Just because I guess campy horror is not 100% my favorite, but yeah, Evil Dead 2 just didn't hit for me. And then, of course, Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah, Army of Darkness is its own. Like, it is obviously an Evil Dead movie, but
Mm,
it really kind of goes off in the same way that Evil Dead Rise kind of goes off.
yeah,
It's just as much medieval piece as it is like Evil Dead. And
right.
obviously Rise was, family trauma or family drama as much as it was, evil deadite coming to possess everybody and their mother.
I
And
mean,
cheese graters, obviously.
yeah, exactly. And then Evil Dead Burn is pretty much another family trauma. People hate each other, and of course, the Deadites feed off that. So, as far as the franchise goes, how do you feel about Evil Dead as a franchise? About where it's headed, where it has gone? We have one more coming soon with Evil Dead Wraith, which comes out in 2028. But as a horror franchise that is considered one of the greats, where do you stand on it?
I think it's fantastic. With Raimi behind the
Mhm.
helm, you had a lot of gore, but you also had a lot of humor. And for the time, even though they didn't spend a ton of time on like the relations between people, you
Mhm.
still got that kind of underlying, like, there was relationships, and
Mm.
they did a good job of kind of expressing those throughout. And I do think that the series as a whole does a great job of kind of like keeping those, with
Yeah.
exception of Evil Dead, or sorry, Army of Darkness. It's a
Mm.
fantastically fun movie, but for me it is a bit of an outlier in the franchise. Again, I feel like it's
Well,
almost more medieval than it is that,
I think
and does
it,
go quite off the rails.
right. I there was a podcast I listened to that was talking about how they wanted to go a different direction with Evil Dead or something like that, and there
Oh
was some
yeah, I
problems
could see
with
that.
the cat or the executives, and it became like a whole big mess. That's why Army of Darkness is like, I don't think it's like 100% an Evil Dead movie, but it's really weird how it plays out. But the thing about Evil Dead, what's interesting is it started out as this kind of straightforward horror film, and then it went campy, and then it went super dark. There are some comedic moments in some of these like recent movies, like the Evil Dead remake, Evil Dead Rise, and Evil Dead, excuse me, Evil Dead Burn. They're like super serious movies. They're super violent movies. They don't go in the same direction that Sam Raimi, who likes the slapstick humor, goes, which is a really interesting thing to take with this series because, as we'll talk about, Evil Dead Burn is almost kind of a continuation of Evil Dead Rise in a lot of respects with its
Oh, it totally
tropes
is a
and
sequel.
I don't know if you heard this or if you know this, but I found this out and I'm surprised I didn't know it, that the Evil Dead universe has 3 Necronomicons. It has 3
Oh, is that why
books.
they use the different? Is that why they use the different like phrase to
Hmm.
summon in this
Yeah,
one?
yeah,
I
because
kind of
they have.
figured there was
Yeah,
that.
because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, this is a different incantation for the
Hmm.
for the Deadites. But yeah, it's apparently there, from what my friend says, and I'm sure it's something I missed. Yeah, there's 3 Necronomicons or 3 books of the Deads that are in play, and so they take place in the same universe, and it's really fascinating. We'll talk about it, but it's really fascinating how the story kind of delves deep into what the grandfather is trying to do, which is stop the Deadites from, being, I guess you could say. But we'll get into like a review first of this movie. We've talked, of course, about what we thought, but I would, for the audience, going into this movie, hearing the things you probably heard about how mean this movie is and how disturbing this movie is. How do you think it fits into the lexicon of the more modern Evil Dead movies, and how do you feel it fits into the lexicon of what the Evil Dead franchise is as a being, I guess you could say? So what is your overall take on the movie Evil Dead Burn?
Well, so as far as how it fits into the more recent, so are you talking Rise and Burn, or are you talking the remake
Well,
Rise and Burn?
I guess Rise and Burn are kind of, they're in the modern thing. I would say that Evil Dead the remake was more of just a remake, a retelling, or do you think it fits into this whole arc of Evil Dead itself?
Does a good job of fitting into the Evil Dead
Mm,
overall. Like I kind of, and I've only ever seen kind of the Evil Dead franchise from the movies. Like I couldn't tell you much lore about like the Deadites beyond what you see in the movies.
mm,
It's not been something I've studied in depth. I enjoy the movies like a ton.
yeah.
But it's not something I've looked into. If you look at the original Evil Dead as kind of maybe like the Deadites' first contact with humans after a while, it seems
Hmm.
like it's a relatively not new, but in a while that them, kind of adjusting to humans and kind of figuring out where their trigger points are in that
Hmm.
time and place. They do get more violent as they move along. And that to some extent that is obviously the way that modern horror has gone. You
Yeah.
either go hardcore to stand out, or you stand out in different ways, and these movies certainly allow themselves to be open. The
Right.
story is equally, the Deadites in the original were very much kind of a side character that you kind of, looked at and went, "Oh my god." But here it's, if not main actor, next to it, a highly supporting actor in these respects.
Mm.
Whether you're taking it as a whole or as, individually.
So what you're saying is that
They all
Deadite should
kind
get an Oscar nomination?
Oh, 100%. I mean, did you see the guy was performing with 3 gunshot wounds to the head?
Yeah. Right.
If you can act through that.
Yeah.
But
I
to answer the
mean.
question,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I do think that that Dead does fit the lexicon of Evil Dead really well.
Hmm.
It kind of follows, they've gotten more violent and they've tested boundaries, and that's kind of what they all have done. I mean, even go back to the original. The Vine, scene is
Mm.
not
Mm.
even now is uncomfortable to watch.
Mm.
And this what happens in this one is, I'm sure for people that watched the Vine scene back in the 80s, I mean, there is a level of uncomfort that sits with both of those moments for different reasons.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, it's the Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead is probably my favorite of the series just because I like the almost guerrilla style nature of that movie, the almost
oh
kind of
yeah.
like duct tape put together, sets are breaking all the time. We don't really know what the hell we're doing. It's, literally what Sam Raimi is one of his first movies, of course. Yeah, I think it's funny. I think one of the Coen brothers was the editor of the Evil Dead originally.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like Joel. I
absolutely.
think maybe it was Joel Cohen was the editor. They were really good friends.
Oh,
It's something I never knew about. But there was a nasty nature to that movie, but there's also a playful nature to the movie. I mean, it is it's interesting to see that Sam Raimi went and it's like, you know what, Evil Dead 2 is just going to be a more goofy, more playful nature, more comedic, campy version of the original movie. But there is a campy nature to the original movie that kind of sets itself apart. If I had one kind of qualm or critique of these new ones, is there's not campiness to them. They're really straightforward, kind of in your face.
I don't know. They are in your face. I know I see humor in a lot of weird things. Well, I 100% admit that.
I should.
But like, okay, like a cheese grater being used.
Yeah, I mean the what is that? Is that a weed? It's not weed whacker, but is that
It's like a branch, it's like a saw to take down branches.
Yeah, isn't that a thing that they use in between the concrete and grass? Like they use it to cut the. Like
I don't think it's a. I don't. No. It's not a trimmer.
No, not a weed whacker, but they do it like to kind of even out.
An edger.
Yeah, an edger. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's
no. This is used for trees.
I love how it's it's a what is that? What is that term in writing when something's like kind of insinuated?
Deus Ex Machina?
No, not Deus Ex. It's foreshadowing. I love how the machine is foreshadowing. Like it's a foreshadow about what it's gonna be used like later.
I'm not gonna lie, the dog for that was that for me. It's like with any of these horror movies, like if you look at cats or rabbits in the 80s or like dogs, I'm on the fence about if you should use dogs, any animal in that respect. Like I know that it's for a specific purpose, but I don't know. I have a hard time with animals dying.
Yeah, the thing is, I knew that was coming too because the way the dog was whining. I mean, we all knew it was happening. It's really difficult. It's funny how in movies and television and so on and so forth, we get more upset over the animals dying than we do about the humans. But I do love that they brought the dog back to be kind of like, they didn't use him very much. They brought him back to become kind of like a deadite, which is kind of awesome. I don't think they've ever used like an actual. Have they ever used an animal to be a deadite in one of these movies? Maybe in like they used the deer's head.
Only one that came, the deer head came to mind. Like that was already dead, but you know.
But that was it was a great moment. When I mean like campy, I mean like if you watch Sam Raimi's movies, even Spider-Man, Drag Me to Hell, there is a campy Looney Tune style nature that these movies don't have, and it misses it because it's like Dead Alive was campy in that nature where he uses a lawnmower, he picks up the lawnmower, he just bloodies everything. And here it's like more visceral than it is campy. And
no, I would agree with that.
I'm not saying there isn't like there were some funny moments, especially with the grandmother in this movie, which I really thought was great. Especially when she takes out the grandmother's teeth and starts licking it and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty great.
I love when she pulled off her own leg.
yeah, and she's just like with the glass. She's like.
Yep. I'll say this. I'll say this. It's not campy in the traditional sense, but Sam Raimi is an executive producer on this, but he's not the director.
Yeah, he lets. It's interesting that Sam Raimi is. I think he's more of just like the steward, just making sure these movies get made. But I don't think he really had. He may have visited the set, but I don't think he really had much to do with this movie, to be fairly honest. Outside of just being there, if Sébastien Vanicek, I think is his name. Who have you ever seen Infested?
Yes. Oh, I love that movie.
Okay, it's from the same director, so I haven't seen it. So
it's very the same feel. Like it's that intense kind of French. It's actually called French extremism. Isn't the kind of
like high tension maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in that realm.
I'll have to check it out because I've never seen it before. But I do appreciate that Sam Raimi is willing to pick directors maybe you've never heard of, like Lee Cronin and Sébastien Vanicek, and I can't remember there's another French director who's directing Evil Dead Wrath, which I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with that movie, because as we learned from the very end of this movie, we're talking spoilers by the way, but at the very end, after the credits are rolled, of course the mother from Evil Dead Rise pops up and breaks that girl's neck in very violent fashion. I was like pretty shocked by that because, it was interesting because when she starts reading the names of the people, I'm like, there's got to be a reason she's reading these names because I haven't seen Evil Dead Rise in quite a while, like a couple years now. So I forgot that's what her name, the lady that she names is actually the mother from Evil Dead. That's why it's not really fully explained how that all comes to be, but that's who the character is. But that girl, that poor little girl, man, I was like, oh my God, I actually thought it was her daughter at first or something like that, but it was like, oh my God, that's
yeah.
But But overall, what did you think about this movie? Like, I know you claim, or you said that you don't like it as much as Evil Dead Rise, but what do you think of it as a movie in general? Just where
I
do you
mean,
look at?
with both of these, I don't dislike this movie. I
Oh
really
no, I'm
enjoyed it.
not
There's
saying
so
that.
much.
Yeah, I'm just
No,
saying like,
there's so much good
mm,
stuff. I think that for me, like it is chaotic as hell, and there's nothing
yeah,
wrong with that
it never
chaos.
stops. Yeah,
But and that's what they went for going into this. That was the reason that they did this.
mm,
I kind of liked the more focused way that it was. Like there was I don't know, like I with the Deadites, and maybe it's it's I don't like I said I don't know a lot about Deadite lore. There were so many questions rolling through my head when it came to this movie, and the like kind of what Deadites do. And I
mm,
think maybe if I sat down and got some answers on the ins and outs of what if anything, what are their limits? Because it kept coming to mind like, oh, this doesn't kill a Deadite, but that does. And again, that's
yeah.
my understanding more than it is a criticism of the film.
No, I mean it may
But I
be a
think
criticism of the film because they're playing with the whole nature of what I've learned about Deadites is they have the ability once the book has been read to inhabit the people that are around the book. And someone I was talking to before we started recording did bring up like how did the Deadite in the lake just happen to come across the son of the father who or the grandfather who was researching and was trying to uncover how to stop the Deadites. I didn't really have an explanation because I'm not as familiar, and we're both. I mean, I can definitely say I think we're both not as familiar with the Deadites as general. But the only thing I could
Mhm.
gather was maybe it was just plot convenience. They just needed to get to that point. In the lake, as you alluded to, I think it's the same lake as Evil Dead Rise. I think it's the same
Yeah,
one.
that's
So
kind
I
of what
mean,
I took.
yeah.
And
Um,
I honestly kind of took it as like they like because we don't really we see
mm,
the chick from the original, not the original chick, but the one that rises out of the water at
yeah,
the beginning
yeah.
of Rise,
Is that the same
like
woman?
I thought so. That was kind of
Let me
what I was
look.
going for.
Yeah, yeah. Let me look while you're
But you
talking.
see her, but even if it's not, like she comes out of the water, she walks across the forest. There seems like there's a transition where she walks to a different forest, so there's no
Mm,
way to tell exactly how long she's been walking.
yeah.
And I think that's like she's drawn to the family. That's kind of
Right.
the what I got from it because Joe later we find out like unwraps that book, and I think that's kind of what starts everything.
I mean, it's possible, but like if you look, I don't that beginning of the movie when the famous recordings being played, I don't think that takes place in the current like the daytime I think it takes place in the 1980 90s or whatever, early
I don't
1990s.
think so.
No,
I'm pretty
it does
sure.
because the grandmother's old and the grandfather has died, and I'm pretty unless I mean, but then again, is that the kid doing the
I thought
research?
that was the kid doing the research because he was using that to write a book. And you
So
see
was the
him like
father the one
find the
recording? Was that the father's recording then?
no, it was the grandpa's recording.
Well, no. I meant
So it's
like
the grandpa on the recording. Yeah.
okay, maybe I miss. So that was
Okay,
the
so
kid. That
here's
was
the way
the brother
that was
doesn't die until
Joe.
later on. It was okay. So that wasn't Will.
Right. Okay, so here's the way
Or
that I saw it,
yeah.
and I could be wrong. So, like, he's sitting there writing down notes based off of those recordings.
Mm,
He talks about he loses his pen. It goes underneath the table. He sees that there's the open space in the wall. Pulls
okay.
that wall out and then sees the book. So he
Right.
pulls out the book, opens it up, and that's when everything goes to hell in a handbasket.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure
interesting.
that the sun
Oh,
unleashed it.
okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right. I think that's because he reads he reads the book, and then that the girl rises up because that takes place before the two guys in the boat, right?
I'm pretty sure.
I have to.
Because it goes from that to the
Okay.
lake with the 2
You're right.
guys, and
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
see
yeah,
her
yeah.
get
That makes
hit, and then it takes you back to earlier that night.
okay. That
It
makes a whole lot
sort of
more sense
plays
of
with time.
why the Deadite would come up and okay, okay. That explains
Yep.
it. That gives me a reason to explain to the person I was talking to because I couldn't remember because the movie is so relenting, unrelenting
Yeah, unrelenting.
unrelenting
Yeah.
that you almost kind of forget some of the stuff that happens in it, but it actually makes me like it more, to be fairly honest. And I'll be fairly honest, and this is, you can take this or leave it, not you but just the audience. I think this is
Yeah.
my second favorite Evil Dead movie because
See it?
I mean, I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, oh my God, this is disturbing and this is maybe too much. And then I started just getting into it. I started seeing what Sébastien Vanicek does, or Vanicek, or however you say his name, because he's French. And it just keeps going and going and going, and it holds no punches. It's willing to kill whoever it wants. I did start falling off a little bit when the mother opens up the window because she gets like, I don't know if she gets possessed by the grandmother.
She's tempted. Yeah. Because she wants the love of her grandma and she she wants the love of her mom.
It's
because she misses her so much.
I know, but it's just kind of weird how it turns because she's been brutally beaten by her husband. She's upstairs. She acts like she hasn't. It's like between her and her son, who gets stabbed by a bunch of, dirty.
They're a bunch of pussies. They really are.
Well, I mean, but like the fact that she gets tempted so quickly is just really weird. And then Will's character comes back as a CGI character. That's a little.
I mean, I will agree with you. I kind of, when they keep talking about him coming and coming, I almost wish like every one of these kind of does its own independent.
Pun intended.
Not actually in this case, but they keep talking about how he's going to arrive. See, now you got me. Anyway, he talks about he's going to show up soon, and you kind of go, okay, where is he? And I suppose that is sort of the thing, and you knew, I don't know, from the second you saw the house, you knew that thing was gonna go up.
Well, I mean, it should have been raised at the beginning. That house is a dilapidated mess. I don't know who.
Oh my God.
I'd be angry too. I would turn into the father too if I saw how bad that house was treated.
I mean, honestly, if he only got it a couple of years previous and that's how it looked, I mean, it wasn't that great to start with. But actually, that is an interesting question. How long was it between Will getting hit or Will dying and the funeral?
Probably.
Was it
not
a
that
year?
Long.
Was it?
No,
okay,
it wasn't that long. I mean, I'm assuming that it happened within, because, if it were a year, it'd be, I don't see that as a thing, so.
Like, because, well, this is the chick in me, but, and I guess, what was her name? Alice, her hair was back in braids the night that he took off in the car, and it looked a lot lighter than what it was when she was kind of, on the couch mourning.
Yeah.
And seemed like it had been a minute, but yeah, that could just be me. Like maybe he was lost in the forest for, however long, but
right.
That's not it. That was the only timing thing that I wasn't sure of. Because the rest of it pretty much happens in about a 12-hour period, but
yeah, it is. They had some cool one-shot moments. Of course, the one we got spoiled in the trailer, which was probably my favorite scene of the movie. The lead actress, who I'm going to look up and see what her name is, her real name is.
Her movie name is Alice, but.
Well, yeah, no, it's Alice.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, she was. I'm going to mispronounce this, but Souheila Yacoub, Swiss actress. She was in a movie called. I don't know if you watch Gaspar Noé films, but she was in a movie called Climax, which was one of my favorite movies that came out that year, which is another unrelenting, very disturbing movie, which Gaspar Noé is known for doing. And I think she fit the damsel in distress, final girl?
I mean, she did, but she also kicked a fair amount of ass.
Well, she did, but she's still, I think, kind of a final girl in a lot of respects because.
Oh no! I mean, anyone. Yeah. All of these Evil Dead movies had that final girl.
Yeah. And you were. You knew it was.
In some cases, it was Ash. It was the final girl.
Final. He's a final girl, so we'll just leave it at that.
Final boy.
Final boy. But yeah, I mean, it's a movie that doesn't. I mean, there are times where I was like, especially with the pen in the ear, which is another foreshadowing moment. He gives him an expensive pen. And this poor girl goes through it all, and the pen every time, getting close to your ear and stuff like that is a little rough.
That's with me and eyes. But just the way the amount of abuse every single one of those people took, and they still came back. It's like, half that I would have been on the floor dead.
Right.
I can only handle so many shots to the, so many, knock your head against a fireplace. And it was just Oh man.
Yeah, I think it was pretty funny. The mortuary assistant was sitting there listening to the
Oh
music, and I was so glad that he died because he was just so disrespectful of the body and the way he was just like. And then like you see off screen, they're just you can tell the props people are just throwing pieces of like whatever at the screen at
yeah.
the guy, and it is interesting how the Deadites in this movie especially are kind of like parasites where once they figure a way to get into your like your blood system or whatever, kind of like it follows or something like that. They can affect the next person, so they infect the father, who infects the dog, and then they have infect the girl because they have that really disturbing scene in the car where she gets her hands chopped off, and I feel bad for that poor girl, man. She
Yeah.
like you could tell she was gonna die, but she gets the impalement from the car seat headrest.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
then she
What
walks
a
in
way
the
to
house and
go.
she takes it out and she drinks as we see in the trailer, she drinks the candle
Wax. Yeah.
wax or whatever, and then it's off to the races. It's
Yeah.
guy father shooting himself 3 times and everybody being damaged to non-repair. I mean, it really, if you think about it, is a movie about family trauma, about family having to go through
Of
some
this. It's
really
about the dynamics of a family pulled
in the
apart by
Deadites.
grief.
Yeah, you could see like a family comedy like on TGIF, the Deadites in the Deadites in the
Yeah,
family.
Deadites in me.
Yeah.
I
But
do want to take a
yeah, go
second
ahead.
to talk about like the cinematography in this thing.
Mm.
Like, oh my god, was having such a good time with the way this thing was shot.
Right.
It like the opening. You had this big opening action set piece, and
Mm.
then you see Will hit the Deadite, and it transitions as he's hitting the Deadite. It transitions to a booty shot in a club.
Mm. Mm.
And it was
Mm.
like the most jarring shot, but it was so fun. I was sitting there laughing my butt off at it. Then there's another shot later where it's Alice versus I think the grandma, and you see and you think it's what's going on until you see them slam into the mirror that they're actually watching, and
Yeah.
they turn around and they see the actual shot. Like not that those are little, but
Mm.
those shots, it's there's so many interesting angles like that.
Well,
It's fantastic.
I like how in when the Deadite comes out of the water and she's killed the 2 guys, and I love that kind of scene because it feels very Evil Dead. She walks to the side of the road, and then like the day turns to night really quick, and then they go back and they show like the dynamic between the brothers and their 2
Mhm.
girlfriend, wife, or whatever, and how it's kind of falling apart. And then it goes back to the from his angle hitting the Deadite, and then you see like her head coming off, and it's just like it's a really cool effect, and I really appreciated it. But it's stuff like that, like the one shots above the the John Wick style above the house that's looking through as the Deadites attacking them, and then the one shot that we saw in the trailer, and it looks really nice. I was looking at the guy who was the cinematographer for this movie did a movie called Mads, which was like a one
Oh
shot.
yeah,
Yeah, was really good. He did
we watched
Cobweb.
that.
um
Oh, I love Cobweb.
but he worked as a camera operator. Let me go back to his IMDb. Hold on a second. He was
Go
camera
for it.
operator for District B13, Trader, The Transporter, Unleashed. So he's a French camera operator, and
His work was fantastic.
yeah, Micmacs.
A lot of good
Oh, he worked
choices.
as a camera operator on Enter the Void, Mirrors,
Wow.
Rush Hour, Scorpion. Yeah, so he's been around for quite a while, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's always nice to see when people have worked in the camera department, worked on like as assistant cameramen, come in to do cinematography because they have a good eye working so many years as underneath cinematographers or DPs, whatever you want to call them. And I think he
Mhm.
does a really nice job here, and I think he has a good future possibly in the career as a cinematographer. So
Oh yeah.
the music was there any music? I'm thinking the music from the Invite, which was really good, but um,
I was gonna say the song in the credits was really awesome.
mm,
It was like Double Danger or something.
yeah, Xavier Cow, Douglas kind of I don't know, yeah, Double Danger, yeah. I mean, music's good. The violence is top notch. I mean, it's as brutal as it can get. I mean, I think it's actually the most brutal Evil Dead movie. I think, period.
Oh
I
yeah.
think the blood scene at the end of Evil Dead remake and then Evil Dead Rise is pretty gory. But I think even the cheese grater scene was kind of held back a little bit. It's not as gruesome and violent as I was expecting it to be. But there is stuff in this movie that holds nothing back. Like I don't remember something being this violent as high tension was so violent. I think the French are just very disturbed individuals, but yeah, I mean, pretty much it's just one set piece after another. These characters are very thinly developed, to be fairly honest. They don't really have too much to go on when it comes to who they are. They're just a family that went through a traumatic event and they start falling apart when things start just kind of devolving into chaos. This poor
Yeah.
woman who is the wife was brutally beaten and attacked by her husband. So there's a little bit of
Kind of constant abuse.
yeah, marital abuse and stuff like that that's playing into this movie. Family not willing to accept that, and it just basically is one woman's survival against a unfortunate event that she didn't want to find herself in, and you know how the mother treats her, and how you know the whole story of like why aren't you going to be taking care of you know the husband's work. It's all about them when you know she went through the tragic event of losing her husband, and it leads to her finally letting go of the abuse and the tragedy that she has befallen her throughout her entire life. You know, she wanted to go back and see with her mother, and finally she's able to kill the final piece that has been keeping her from doing what she does. So it's really interesting
Yeah.
how a horror film can take very dark and interesting, intriguing material and kind of play with it. To be fairly honest, as
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a honestly, that's a lot of horror. I mean,
mm,
you'll hear people say, and across the board, oh, why is this horror piece, make me feel in the feels? Why is this political? So much of what horror is, and not all of it, there is just slashers. There is just, stuff that's meant to be gory. But a good chunk of it does have a message. Be
mhm.
that for some, someone working through trauma or someone trying to make a statement about something. Like all of these things, it's not unique to horror by any stretch. I have a question though. At the end of this, did you kind of get Ready or Not vibes when she says, what did this to you? And she's like, my ex-husband, and like to get the
um,
end of, I got,
that's
I got,
why she could pop up
I
later
got,
on. But did she become a Deadite? Her eye changes.
I kind of wondered that. Like there
Mm,
was something going on there. But you think about how much blood that she probably like got, covered in. How
mm.
could you not? I just if it's a blood-based thing, then how could she not?
I
Truly.
mean, it's possible. When they showed up on her eye, I think her eye changed to like the dead eye or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
um,
look at Joe's mom. Like she like kisses her husband and kind of takes on some deadite like stuff, but she's still largely herself. It's not until later that she becomes full deadite.
right,
So there's
right.
that kind of weird transitional like, becoming a zombie or becoming a vampire. You kind of get that in
Yeah,
between phase.
there was a little bit of vampire feel to this movie. You notice that? Like the
Oh yeah.
Deadites
Well, the
felt a
blood
little vampirish.
transfusion,
Like
they did.
you know, because that's the whole big thing about Dracula and about the trans like how they take
Spread.
their and they it's like a infusion, a blood infusion type of thing. So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I was getting a little bit of like the director was big into vampire movies, so they wanted to make it kind of because they can walk on walls, they they disappear quickly, and you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's we had a conversation offline about
Mm,
how well, and this is more me asking than it was anything else, but like if there was rules in regards to kind of the Deadites and how they do business, because some of the things that happen,
mm,
it's like okay, they're not they can't go through a door, and that's
mm.
kind of the vampire thing too. Like whether that's a taunting thing, like ha ha ha, we're not gonna let you out kind of a thing, or if it's
Yeah, I
a
mean,
they can't enter unless whatever.
if you think about it, like the Deadites move like bats a little bit. Like they move above the sky. They move quickly. they're kind
Oh
of like
yeah.
a possessive force that can kind of, we see with the mother, like possess people and turn them. But I think the whole idea behind Deadites is they like to play with their food almost a little bit. They like to play
Oh yeah.
with, because there's many points in this where they're just like playing with the people, and they're playful, and they're, the guy we see when she looks out and she sees the father outside, and he just kind of waves. He's like, wave. And it's that kind of thing. I think it's just that playful nature of like, like a Freddy in a lot of respects,
Yeah.
or the Gremlins. There's a playful nature to how horrifying it
They're
can be.
tricksters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
exactly. The dagger thing though is interesting because I don't remember if it's in any Evil Dead movies. I don't think it is.
I
So I
don't
don't
think
know.
it is either.
Yeah, I think the book was the main thrust, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that they invented or they were thinking about putting in the other movies or something. I don't know, but
Well, even the Wise Men group, I don't remember hearing about them previously.
yeah. So maybe it's something they're doing their own Avengers MCU verse with the Deadites or something. Who knows? You're gonna see the girl from the last movie, Rise. You're gonna see the girl from this movie, and then you're gonna see another girl, whatever. Maybe the girl that got infected by the grandmother in the mid-credit scene or something like that, which I thought was great.
Did you find it interesting? And I know that. So you look at the original three, and Ash was obviously your main
mm,
guy. In these, it's been heavily feminine focused.
well, that's been a thing like for decades now. I mean, they're like I think, to me personally, the heroine woman is probably the best representation of horror, because a lot of horror
Oh, I
movies,
agree.
well,
It's just
this
with
might
these
sound like misogynistic,
specifically.
but a lot of horror movies deal with like abuse, and
Yeah.
men don't really get a lot of abuse. I mean, you can be fair. Ash isn't really getting. He's just getting smacked around like a bitch, but he's
He
not.
lost his hand.
Well, but he did that to himself. It'd be like, didn't he
He
drink?
grew a second head and arm, or a second head out of his
Yeah, but
own
he had a
head.
chainsaw. He was fine. He had a boomstick, so he's good.
He fought like a whole bunch of little hymns. I'm not saying that that's not abuse, but yeah, I mean, no, I found it
No, but I
interesting
think
that the focus
you
is
go all the way
heavily.
back to Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh,
You
I
go all the
am
way
well
back to
aware of.
Dracula and stuff like that. I mean,
Oh, I know.
I
I'm
think
well aware. I
females
just
and
I
well, no, I was
found
gonna
it.
say
I
I
found.
think
I just found it interesting that with these three, or sorry,
yeah,
these
yeah,
two. Not well, yeah, no, these three
yeah.
with Evil Dead Rise or Evil Dead remake through this. The voice has been heavily feminine. I think that's great. I
Mhm.
find it interesting.
No, I mean, yeah. But like I said, I think a lot of movies these days have been,
Yeah, I agree.
I think for the better, but people and their
Yeah.
beliefs, I guess
Well,
you could
people
say.
are gonna be people, and there's just
Yeah,
this. I mean, there's a lot of it on both sides. I mean, something like Infested was kind of
yeah.
more male based. Like, yeah, no, I found it interesting that they kept a very, like, all three of them focused, heavily on that, and I think that's cool. So
Yeah. No, and they get good actors. They have people you've never seen before, and so there's been pretty great
yeah,
acting in it. And with that said, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about with this movie, because it really is straight up. Once it hits the ground running, it barrels through walls like it's going out of style, and it actually goes through walls
oh
many
yeah,
times. And
and ceilings.
yeah, and it's very violent, and it's very gory, and it's very disturbing. And I people who tell me, oh, I didn't like this movie, I'm like, well, I mean, it is an Evil Dead movie. I mean, you have to be prepared for it, especially if you've seen Evil Dead Rise or the last Evil Dead, the Evil Dead remake. I mean, these movies they're unrelenting with what they do. But I think this is once again, it's my second favorite of the Evil Dead franchise. I think I did a letterbox and I put Evil Dead as number one, the original Evil Dead. I think I put Evil Dead Burn as number two. I think I put the Evil Dead remake as number three. Evil Dead Rise is number four. Evil Dead 2 is number five, and then Army of Darkness is number six.
Gasp.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Army of Darkness is fine, but Evil Dead 2 I'm sure would not make a lot of people happy. So
It's okay.
yeah, but
That's why it's your ranking and not somebody else's.
right. But do you have any closing thoughts before we head up?
I guess the one thing I would say is that so this movie is an hour 50, and with most horror that goes over about an hour and a half, my thought is always, oh, it could have been a little like not even tighter. Just you could have told that story in a little less time, and I still stand by that for this. But that's not anything against the pacing. That's just my personal like preferences. The
Mm.
way that this moves, like you're sitting there watching a thing and it's like, oh, they're all fighting over there. It's good, but I wish something would happen. Then all of a sudden, like someone like comes up in the frame and has their head busted into the ceiling.
Right, right.
There is something consistently going on. And the editing really does a great job of reflecting it. It's got humorous moments like they're in a chimney and all of a sudden, like it's just sitting there on a still shot and the head falls down. And
Yeah.
that was hilarious to me, just the way that it happened.
Yeah,
There's a
they're
lot of
walking
like
down like
little humorous.
crabs. It's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, like leave expectations for physics at the door because this movie does not respect that shit at all.
Not only is it not
But it's an Evil
expected,
Dead movie.
yeah, it throws everything out the window and cuts it with a knife, and then throws it
Oh
onto
yeah.
a what is that? Dishwasher rack.
Oh my god. I was really that would be the one thing like you replace like the cheese grater with the washing machine. But
Should have
it
They
did
should have
come
brought out
back and made it come.
the popcorn bucket for that. Should have made one.
But no,
Yeah,
excellent movie. Highly suggested. If you like gory films, this is definitely the one for you. But just don't go in looking for deep story. Just go in and enjoy the ride because this thing has it in spades and it's done really well. You've got a
yeah.
master at the helm.
Just know that if you can't handle violence, this might not be the one for you. So-
Yeah, well, there's the one point where it gets like it goes pretty hard, but then after
Mm,
that, it feels like you've gone up the big roller coaster hill, and then
mm.
everything else is just a wild ass ride, and you're kind of over the bump of like the big crazy violence.
Exactly, exactly. So, all right, Triv, we're gonna go ahead and head out. Thank you so
Sounds
much
great.
for doing this impromptu. I was not expecting to do a review for this, but I had to talk about it. You have content. You still do
I
content.
do.
I'm assuming. Where is that content at?
You can find it in a house out in the woods that will probably catch fire later.
Exactly. You gotta make sure you put some water on it, or it'll explode on you. And then some
Exactly.
guy who's been burnt alive will come after you, and you have to put him in the pit with the oil with Michael Myers or something.
No, you can find me on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I'm in the middle of a bunch of PSAs with some really talented folks, so definitely stop by and say hi.
All right, guys. So that is Triv. Follow her content. She has great content, better than mine most of the time. But anyways, for me, you can follow me at Movie Emporium where I have all my content. If you like what you see, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comments below. What's your favorite Evil Dead movie? What did you think of Evil Dead Burn? But with that said, we're gonna head out. And for myself and Triv, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out, guys.